And now we are joined by Philadelphia's #1 hockey beat writer. It is Charlie O'Connor coming to us live from the Wells Fargo Center. Charlie, I just have to, thoughts on the game, any standout post-game comments?
Yeah, I have thoughts on the game. This was the Scott Laughton game. I don't think it takes a brilliant writer to pick out what the story from this one is. And Laughton, I don't think Laughton's been terrible this year. The offense probably hasn't been as much as he would want, or as much as I think fans would want. But I think he's been playing fine overall. I don't think he's been dramatically underachieving, but obviously he jumped from 3 goals on the season to 7 in one game. That's he's literally over doubled his goal total. This was the Scott Laughton game. The Flyers score 4 goals. Scott Laughton scores all of them. That was really cool to see. And one thing that was really neat, I think, in the locker room was just getting a read on how happy the guys were for him. It's no secret that he is kind of the heart and soul of the team. He's not the captain, but he's obviously wearing an A, and he is sort of, that glue guy that everyone loves. Sean Couturier calls him today, one of the best teammates he's ever had. Travis Konecny more or less echoed it. Laughton himself just said it, it really meant a lot because obviously he got the belt after the game. The ovation that he got was very loud and very long because we could hear it from outside the room. And I think this was the thing John Tortorella said as well, was just that there's not a nicer guy that a game like this could have happened to. And I don't want to even say a game like this could have happened to, because that makes it seem like it happened to him. He went out and he played a really good game. Obviously that first goal, and he even admitted it, it was kind of a, I've been watching all the saves that Talbot's making. Might as well just go up there and blast away and see what happens. It's a great shot. It goes right off the crossbar. And then the second goal, they've been struggling on the penalty kill. They've been struggling not only to prevent goals, but also last year they had 16 shorthanded goals. This year going into tonight, they had 1 through nearly 30 games. That's an aspect of their team that was integral to their success last year that just hasn't been there this year. So that was huge, to get that power kill back going again at a key moment. And then the empty net goals, that's just to me, it feels like almost like a karmic reward for all of the things he does on and off the ice for this team. He gets the first one, and apparently, the hockey gods weren't done with him because they give him a second one and tried to give it up to Garnet Hathaway, but Garnet Hathaway was like, no chance. You're getting this 4th goal. So apparently, it's the first 4-goal game. We were talking about it on the way down to the locker room. One of the reporters discovered it was like the first 4-goal game by a Flyer since John LeClair in 2002, which is wild.
2003,
yeah, which is wild that it's been that long. I thought to myself, did Wayne Simmons ever get 4? I remembered that Couturier only got 3. It was like, did Simmer ever get 4? Apparently not. Apparently it was John LeClair, and then before that it was the Yuri Dopita 4-goal game, that famous one, because we weren't sure if that might be the most recent, but apparently LeClair's came after that. In any case, really good to see from a Flyers perspective, because this was a game that they outplayed the Red Wings, especially I would say the second period. First period was pretty even. They got the better play in the second half of the first period. Second period, they took them to the cleaners. Third period, look, they could do a better job at closing out games. Aleksei Kolosov makes that big save. I'd like for him not to ever have to make that big save to keep it tied, but all's well that ends well. They end up winning this game in convincing fashion, both on the stat sheet and on the scoreboard, and obviously, huge night for Scott Laughton.
Now, Charlie, we need you to find out what the city of Detroit did to Scott Laughton to make him play so aggressively against them. Like, did he go into a Little Caesars and the hot and ready pizza wasn't hot and ready?
I don't know. I mean, sometimes you just have a team that you I guess, for lack of a better way to describe it, you see red against, and it is the Red Wings. So perfect team to do that to.
It's just wild to me. He now has 13 goals in 20 games against Detroit, a non-division team. Like, it's not a team. Like, he has 13 against Washington, but he's played 37 games against them. He has no more than 5 against anyone else. How do you have like a quarter of your goals? He crossed the 100-goal mark tonight. I think it's now like 102. 26 of his goals against 2 teams. Like, how do you describe? What makes that happen? It's insane.
Bill, I don't know why you ask me these questions, because you know my answer is going to be it's a fluke and it's just fun. There is no actual answer. The universe is random and chaotic. Like, that's always going to be my answer, because there is no explanation. Like, sometimes the puck bounces your way, and it just bounces way a lot against the Red Wings, and he's had really good games against this team. Like, I'm thinking back to that crazy game a few years ago near Christmas. Was it last season, I believe?
Yes.
Where he was like by far the best player on the ice, and this was coming after a month where he was barely doing anything. So, I don't know. I don't think there's anything to it, but it's certainly fun to talk about.
I ask you, Charlie, because I need that answer. Everyone loves nihilist Charlie. We need to get more of it. You mentioned that big Kolosov save. He ends up stopping 25 of 26. He's 4 minutes shy of his first career shutout. So today, John Tortorella, not just internally, but says out loud to the media, Aleksei Kolosov, he's our number 2. I've told Fedotov he's 3rd in the pecking order. Were you surprised they kind of said it out loud?
A little, but this is something that I feel like once Torts has had the conversation with the player, he doesn't really have a problem having the conversation with the media. Look, you could, I guess, evaluate this as being strategic, because obviously the unspoken truth is that there are concerns that Kolosov could run back to Belarus, to the KHL, if the Flyers try to send him down. In all honesty, though, I don't think that's what this is. I think what this is at its core, and I think like Danny Briere is perfectly fine with it that it played out this way, but I think what this is at its core is that right now, John Tortorella trusts Aleksei Kolosov more than he trusts Ivan Fedotov. Like, Sam Erson's the number 1. That's not changing unless Kolosov plays really well for a couple months, the way that Erson did last year with Carter Hart. But you saw it in that game against Florida. That would, to me, was like the light bulb moment where it was just like, oh, this is how Tortorella views these two goalies. Because I'm not saying Fedotov played well in that first period. He didn't look sharp. But if Sam Erson had given up those same 2 goals and had the exact same first period, he doesn't get pulled. They're only down 2-0. Neither of those goals were horrible. He could have stopped them, but neither of them were so leaky that you have to get the guy out of there. The fact that he pulled Fedotov, made the decision to do so, told me he doesn't have confidence in Fedotov. And the fact that he did it to put Kolosov in, and by the way, Kolosov didn't play that well in relief either. He gives up a real bad goal in the third period. But guess what? 2 nights later, it's Kolosov in net, not Fedotov. That, to me, was the telltale sign of John Tortorella trusts one guy and he doesn't trust the other, or he trusts one guy more than the other. And I think from that point on, then it just becomes, okay, well, John Tortorella is the coach of the team. He's picked his guy. And let me put it this way. If Tortorella had decided that he trusted Fedotov more than Kolosov, I think Danny Briere would have had the conversation with Kolosov's camp and been like, look, we're not going to keep 3 goalies forever. We're going to send you down. What do you want to do? Do you want to stay up here? We would rather you stay up here, but this is what we're going to do because we can't carry 3 goalies forever, and our coach trusts the other guy more than you. Now that it seems like it's the other way around, it actually works out pretty well for the Flyers, because I would assume eventually they're going to send Fedotov down. Like, unless this changes, unless, one of the 2 top guys gets injured. Obviously, there's still questions about Erson because he's coming off a big injury. You maybe don't want to do it yet in case that there's another recurrence of that. At some point, they're probably going to send Fedotov down, and because of his contract, there's a very, very small chance he's going to get claimed. Whereas with Kolosov, there was obviously no chance he's going to get claimed because he's waiver exempt, but there's a chance he might just disappear. Now, by keeping Kolosov as the 2 and knowing that Fedotov almost certainly isn't going to get claimed, that does help your organizational goalie depth for this year, because that means that, okay, well, we've picked our 2, and if one of those 2 get hurt, we can just immediately bring Fedotov right back up, no problem. Whereas if you were to pick Fedotov as your 2 and then you send Kolosov down, he goes back to the KHL, you're not going to grab him back. If Erson suffers a 2-week injury, then you've got to call up Cal Peterson, that's not a good solution. So it actually, I think, works in the Flyers' favor that it seems like it's playing out this way. But I don't think this was mandated by the GM. I think this is driven by the fact that the head coach just trusts Kolosov more than Fedotov right now. And honestly, tonight he showed why, because he played really well.
So the way we've been evaluating Kolosov, I feel like we've done a lot of, well, for his age and in this situation, he looks like he's keeping his head above water. But now that he's the official number 2 goaltender for this team. Is that kind of changing the way you're going to like evaluate him?
I don't think so. I think I was evaluating him the same way. Like, I still think he would benefit most by being down in the AHL. He's a very young goalie. He's still raw. He's still learning. I think his best place would be in the AHL. But at the very least, over these last few games especially, he's showing that he's good enough to be in the NHL. Now, whether this is the best spot for him, unclear. I would probably rather have him in the AHL. That said, I think this spot is good enough for him because I think he can play well enough to at least hold his own. And honestly, this game and the what was it? The St. Louis game. What was the last game he played that he was pretty good in? What game was that? There's so many games they all blend together. The last start that he had, he was good in that game too. I think he's been fine. He's been a perfectly fine backup goalie. Hopefully, he keeps developing from there.
Yeah, I'm just bringing up his game log now. He was, the Florida game, he came in relief. Oh, the St. Louis game, he stopped 25 of 27. He stopped 25 of 27 at Nashville. That was kind of his really good run. So, yeah, it was really just that Florida game where both goalies kind of stunk. And feels
that's a good offense, too.
Yeah, it feels like, as Charlie said, they made the decision from there. What did you make of the decision to sit Andrae tonight, Charlie? And of course, Torts' comments about your comments. Did you feel like you were in a hall of mirrors at that point?
I mean, whatever. Like Torts is just having fun.
Yeah,
I treated it out because I thought it was funny. And Torts then he has that comment and then he looks over at me and smirks as the next question's being asked. So he was just having fun too. I don't know if that means if that's just a reaction to one of the questions I may have asked a few weeks ago, or if he's actually reading my articles. I don't know. But hey, if he's a PHLY diehard, it's another reason for you to be a PHLY diehard. In any case, no, I don't think Emil Andrae should be scratched. I don't think he's playing poorly enough to be scratched. But I can't get angry at it, really, because guys can benefit from a developmental standpoint by sitting for a game or two. Like, it's not going to kill them if he has to sit up there. Maybe it motivates him a little bit more. You know, it's okay, well, there are a couple of things they've been working with me on. Maybe I haven't been responding as well as they want to the feedback, so I got to go out there when I get back in and play better. It's certainly, at the very least, it hasn't hurt Matvei Michkov. You could certainly argue it's helped him. Now he's playing really, really well, especially at 5-on-5, much better than he was prior to the scratch. So I can't get mad at it. That said, I do think Emil Andrae is one of their best defensemen. So I don't think it's a great idea to keep for the long term. Like, if they're doing it because they think Yegor Zamula is better than Emil Andrae, then it's wrong. If they're doing it because they think Emil Andrae will benefit in a game or two when he gets back in and be a better player than he's been over the last 2 weeks, fair. But Andrae is one of their 4 best defensemen in my eyes, especially if, maybe if Jamie Drysdale keeps playing well, maybe he can push Andrae down. And then maybe you have to have a conversation of, well, does Andrae fit here? You know, right now, maybe you send him back down. We've gotten, I'd say, 2 very good games of Drysdale. 1 game tonight that was fine. Wasn't amazing. Wasn't bad. I'm not ready to bump Jamie Drysdale up into a top 4 role. And I certainly don't feel comfortable with Yegor Zamula in a top 4 role. Risto, strong game tonight. Fine with him in a top 4 role. But Andrae, to me, is the only other defenseman that fits in that role. And his results, the numbers, say that he's been a good top 4 defenseman this year, John. So I would say get him back in as soon as possible. But that's just my opinion.
Shots fired, Charlie, going right for Tortsy over there. So just focusing on tonight, though, how do you think Zamula played back in the lineup?
I thought he was okay. To me, that was Risto. Risto carried that pair. He was really good, and really from the jump. I mean, he had that first period was sloppy and dull and boring. I thought Ristolainen was maybe the only player on either team, only skater, who I thought was noticeably good. He made a bunch of good defensive plays, was very disruptive. Then he kicks off the second period by blowing up Michael Rasmussen, who is like 6'6". Like, that is peak Ristolainen. And I thought he was the driver of that pair. Zamula didn't make any obvious errors, but he still plays too slow for my liking. Like, I'm fine if you want to have Zamula in there as your 6, but if you're trying to sell him to me as your number 3 or your number 4 on your second pair, I'm just not buying it. Andrae I can buy. Zamula I can't.
Last one from me before stars, Charlie. How bad does the media want Michkov to score a Michigan so you can ask Torts about it?
I don't. The funny thing is that, like, I really don't care. I really don't. It's not a terribly interesting story to me of like, what does John Tortorella think about the Michigan? I don't give a crap, but a lot of people give a crap. So it's less about me wanting it to happen so that we can ask the question, and it's more about me wanting it to happen so people will stop obsessing over what Torts thinks about it.
That's awesome. See, I love setting Charlie up for this stuff. All right, Chuck, it is now time for Charlie O'Connor's 3 stars of the game. Hit us with star number 3.
Star number 3, I thought about going with Cam Talbot here because I thought he was really, really good. But I'm going to go with Ristolainen because of that. He had a really strong game. I thought he was, maybe the Flyers' best player in the first half of the game. Scott Laughton was obviously their best player in the second half of the game, or at least best skater. But Ristolainen I thought was strong. And to me, it's even more impressive that he did it without Andrae as his partner. Because when Andrae is his partner, Andrae can do most of the puck moving. Ristolainen strikes me as more of the support guy on that pair rather than the driver. When he's paired with Zamula, Ristolainen has to become the driver. And I saw him doing more with the puck tonight. He was just making more obvious plays rather than just being the guy in support. And he looked really good doing it. So for that reason, he's my 3rd star.
I think we can figure the rest of these out. But hit us with star number 2.
Yeah, star number 2 is Aleksei Kolosov. Great game. That save he makes with it was probably with about like 3 minutes left. It's right after they score the goal that cuts it to 1. It's on our old pal Eric Gustafsson. That save is enormous. Like I made a joke going down the elevator that if this game, given the way the Flyers played and how dominant they were on the shot counter, especially in the second period, if this game would have went into overtime, I was throwing my laptop off the press box. Like I would have been so mad because it was just like there's no reason why we should have to be covering it overtime. The Flyers should be way ahead in this game, and the fact that they almost blew it is something they have to work on because, even the Columbus game, they dominated that game. The fact that it ended in 5-3 rather than 5-1, like, yeah, just bear down and close these games out without giving anybody heart attacks. But Kolosov came through. That is not an easy save. Kolosov makes a big save there. He really made big saves the entire game. Even the second period that the Flyers completely dominated in the second half of the second. First half of the second period, he made some tough stops. He made some big saves. And Kolosov, it's a bummer he doesn't get the shutout because he, again, played well enough to get the shutout. But I think everybody in that room knows how well he played. For that reason, he's my 2nd star.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for. Who is tonight's 1st star?
1st star, obviously, Scott Laughton. I mean, come on. Four goals. Look, 2 of them were empty netters, but he played a really good game. It was funny, actually. John Tortorella said after the game that he didn't think that line played well. He thought Laughton played well. Little shade at Ryan Paley and Garnet Hathaway, but Laughton was great. On the PK, gets the big shorthanded goal. Obviously, is the one who finally breaks through on Talbot, which was huge. I mean, look, any goal is huge, especially when it's a tie score. But Talbot was getting to the point where it was like, how are we going to beat this guy? And then Laughton breaks that air of invincibility by blasting that slap shot by him on the power play or on the breakaway. That makes it seem like suddenly this game is winnable, that it's not like they're just facing off against the hot goalie. It's like, oh, Laughton beat him. We're good. We got this. And then Laughton scores another one. Then he gets the 2 fun empty net goals. Just a feel good game all around. Happy for Scott Laughton. For that reason, he's the obvious 1st star of the game.
He absolutely is, Charlie, but you are our number 1 star beat writer. Don't you forget it. That is Charlie O'Connor. He will be back with us tomorrow at 4 o'clock for our regularly scheduled Friday show. Make sure you tune into that. Until then, Chuck, take it easy, my friend.
All right. See you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.